Hi guys, so today I'm coming to you with a non-Star Wars review, but rather this is a review for a game called 7 and 7. Now, 7 and 7 is a pretty light card game. It's a set collecting game based on 7 sins and 7 virtues, and you kind of have to make a choice on which one you're going to collect. Sometimes there's a little bit of screw your neighbor or take that in here, where you can try to slow down somebody else's collections and benefit yourself. And it actually plays pretty quick. It plays 2 to 5 players. It is rated for 13 and up, although you can play it with a much younger crowd, but the fact that the theming involves certain sins like lust, you may not want to expose young children to, so that's kind of why the age, I think, is a little bit higher. I've actually introduced this to some family who are not really hardcore gamers, and I think it's actually a pretty good gateway game for folks that are considering doing something, getting into some light gaming with, potentially some more heavier gaming down the line. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how it plays and show you the cards and the artwork. So let's take a closer look.
So 7 and 7 comes with a deck of cards, a rule book that's actually pretty well written, very, very easy to understand, and 2 reference cards. It also actually comes with 1 promo card if you get one of the early print runs. I don't know how many copies of the game the promo card will come with, but it comes with a single copy of this card called Capricious. I'll explain this one later when we get to the cards. But the 2 promo cards are pretty nice. Basically they talk about what all the sins do and what all of the virtues do. And if you look at the cards, they basically, there's multiple copies of every sin. Just about everything has multiple copies except for the one that I talked about. But there's 2 double-sided, so you can play it this way or you can play it that way. So basically, to win the game, you have to be the first person to collect 7 sins or 7 virtues. And it kind of helps to decide which one you're going to go for first and try to play those face up. So if I wanted to play, if I was going to go for virtues, I would play this card and I would play it like in front of me like so. Or if I want to go for sins, I would play it this way. Whichever side is pointed towards the middle of the table is the side that's basically considered active. Now, there are things that you can do to potentially flip another player's card or flip one of your own cards. So if somebody has maybe 6 sins lined up, you might want to flip one of them, so now they only have 5, so that, because you can only play 1 card a turn. And after you play a card, you're going to draw a card. You always draw a card at the end of your turn. Or if you don't have a card to play, or if you don't want to play a card, you can instead draw 3 cards. And that's a great way if you just, you're not getting what you need. I've played this with 4 players. I haven't played with 5 yet, but I imagine that in a 5-player game, it would be, it would be more rare and more difficult to acquire the full 7 cards. If nobody is able to get a full set of 7, and the deck runs out, whoever is the closest will be the winner, and a tiebreaker would go to whoever has the most of the other one, because every type of card you can have multiples of, and there are also wilds. So let's take a look at each of the cards. So we have Pride, and Pride, when you play, you may play an additional sin this turn. So normally you can only play 1 card each turn. And or if you played it the other way on Humility, you could play an additional card from your hand this turn if you do choose an opponent to do the same at the end of your turn and ignore that card's ability. So there you go. Now we have Lust. Converts up to 2 cards in play that are not in your play area. Convert means to flip. What the game basically refers to as flipping is called converting. So that's a nice way to, in a multiplayer game, you can flip maybe 1 of yours and 1 of yours, or maybe 2 from the same person. So this is a nice kind of screw your neighbor, or maybe literally, or take that. And this is one of those cards why you may not want to have, maybe a 6-year-old play with you, even though it's like the mechanics of the game work for younger children. It's maybe just a question of parenting. If you have some younger kids around, this may be not entirely appropriate. So teenagers probably are okay with stuff like this. And then Chastity, you play this card only during an opponent's turn. Block a card from coming into play. So this one's kind of like a counter spell, like good old-fashioned Magic the Gathering blue cards. We've got Wrath. Choose an opponent, discard a card they have in their play area. That's nasty, right? Discard will just get it out. Next to the deck, you're going to have you have your deck in the middle of the table. You're also going to have your discard pile right next to that, and everybody kind of sits around, right? And then Patience, you may put this card into play from your hand after an opponent converts a card in play. All right. Then we have Gluttony, just lets you draw a card. So it is pretty thematic, right? And then Temperance. On the other side, look at the top 3 cards of the draw pile. Choose one to place in your hand and discard the rest. I'm going to point out that every version of Gluttony that's in the deck also has Temperance, so this is the same. So they don't mix and match. Like you wouldn't have like Gluttony with one and Chastity on the other side or something like that. So basically they're set to be like the mirror images of the same sin and virtue. So Greed, choose an opponent, then take one card from their play area and put it into your play area. You may convert that card. That's nasty. And then Charity, you may play an additional card from your hand this turn. So that's a nice one. And so there's definitely asymmetry. Envy, we've got copy an ability from either side of an opponent's card in play. Its effects last until the end of your turn. Kindness, copy a card you have in play. Kindness cannot be blocked. We saw some other cards that will block cards, right? Then we have Sloth. Until the end of your turn, if you have 4 or more sin in play, you may immediately play this card from your hand at the end of your turn. And then Diligence, put a card from the discard into your play area. Ignore that card's ability. That's nasty. For the discard pile, so when something is gone, you get to play it. But Sloth is an interesting one because this is kind of a sleeper win. Like if you had 6, you might want to hold on to Sloth until the very, very end if you were going for sins, and then maybe you have 5 sins in play and you don't look like you're that much of a threat. You play one more, and then boom, end of your turn. I also get to play Sloth, and I have a come from behind win, right? So that's the 7 different sins and virtues. Those are the basic cards that you're going to find most abundantly in the deck. We also have some wild cards. Wild cards are going to have this little W with either a horn or this W with a halo. And basically, if any card that has this symbol on it can count as any sin. When you play it, you don't have to decide at the point. It's wild. So think of like wild in a regular deck of playing cards. It's whatever you need. So if you just had 7 wilds, you were good to go. Now you'd have a challenge trying to get 7 wilds because they're kind of rare. But it also has an ability on it. So whenever you play a card, you're also going to do the text on it. For the double-sided cards, you're only going to play the text on the side that you played. But for ones like this, cards like this that are not double-sided, you're just going to play the whole thing. So this one says, choose a player. You may convert a virtue they have in play. Discard the top card of the draw pile. Then choose a card in the discard pile and add it to your hand. This does 2 different things. And it's a wild. So these are really strong cards. Let's look at the virtue version of the wild. You have choose a player. You may convert a sin they have in play. Then draw a card. So not necessarily as nasty, but better in the early game because there may not be too much stuff in the discard pile in the early game. Then we also have the double wild, which has no game text. So when you play this, it doesn't do anything, but it's a really good card to have in your opening hand because this can be whatever you want it to be, right? You just have to decide when you play it. So maybe you save this until you've got like, I've got three different virtues out. Boom, now I have 4, and now I'm close to winning. Okay. You have the converter. This one actually doesn't count as either, but this one does. This lets you play an additional card this turn. So normally, like I said, you only get 1 card per turn, but this one lets you, makes up for that weakness because now you can play 2 cards in your turn. And then you play it, and if it's in the start of your next turn, you can discard it to convert any card in your play area. So is that in your play area? Yeah, convert any card in your play area. So this one's kind of like a bomb and goes off next turn, and you have the option. It kind of counts. It can do a lot of different things. If you're going like both sins and virtues, this one will let you like flip to whichever one is more convenient at the time. It's a good all-purpose card, so I like that card. And now let's talk about the promo. This promo is actually, I can see why they made only one per deck of cards. Oh, and I'm dropping it over here. Goodness. But yeah, so Capricious actually counts as both a wild for sins and a wild for virtues. So it's a wild for any card in the game, basically. So that's nice. And so while it's in play, it counts as any sin and any virtue. Wow. So you could potentially, in theory, have 6 different sins and 6 different virtues all out at the same time. Play this one, and then that would be like the ultimate win, right? If you played this and then had all 7 of each, you would basically be some type of demigod, I suppose. And that is basically the game. Obviously, you'll want to shuffle before you play with this one because now I got all the good stuff on top, right? But anyway, it's a pretty light game. It plays pretty quickly in about 20 minutes or so. And I think it's actually very easy to teach. So if you're not the best teacher, I think it'd be a fun game to just to bring with you. It's got a small box, pretty easy to carry around and store. Great game to open up a game night or anything, when you only have less than a half an hour to play.
So this is 7 and 7. If you're interested in picking up a copy, it's actually available at Cool Stuff. I'll put a link in the description down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I also do giveaways, and I usually do Star Wars reviews. So if you're interested in any of that, you may want to subscribe and click the little bell for alerts so you can get notified when I announce another contest or giveaway or announce a winner. Or if you're interested in Star Wars gaming, I have plenty of that here as well as some Star Wars news and reviews of various other Star Wars based stuff, but I also do other board games as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.